Okay, let's go. Oh, hey, do we not have any more wardrobe? Like we're wearing the same things we were wearing just for the first part. How odd is that?
Work from
So
home, man.
so this is part two. This is the part where we break down our picks. We also kind of criticize PFF for giving us a low draft grade, potentially.
We'll
If you
criticize each other too. If I think there was a dumb pick, I'll say something.
if you joined us for the first part, you got to see our picks based off of us being the GMs for these football teams. I think we did a pretty good job. I think we did a very realistic job of where we're hearing the rumors going right now for the teams that we drafted. Jay, Andrew, and I both had we played Rochambeau, rock paper scissors. I was the Andrew won the first pick. Junior had the second pick. Ace right here had the third pick, and we kind of just went in that order. So watch the first episode. It's in the icon up there, right over Jay's noggin, a little bit up. Yeah, they're right there. Perfect. Nope. Yep. We're doing it. We're doing it, folks.
There we go.
So let's pull up the results of our draft.
And granted, I'll rip PFF, bro. Some of these are ridiculous.
Okay, so we got an A plus for the Trevor Lawrence pick. Pretty streamlined pick there. We were just asking ourselves, like, there's no possible scenario where Trevor Lawrence wouldn't go to the Jaguars unless Trevor Lawrence said, I don't want to go to the Jaguars, and then maybe they try to trade out of that spot. Zach Wilson to the New York Jets, where all the rumors have him going, even though we like Justin Fields a little bit better as a team here. Zach Wilson, BYU, quarterback.
Yeah, Justin Fields is way better.
We got an A plus there. With my pick, with the third pick, I took the San Francisco 49ers pick. Mac Jones, Alabama quarterback, threw a ton of yards, then a ton of touchdowns last year. Can fit into a system really well. Could be a nice, safe quarterback for this draft.
Another guy who should not be going above Justin Fields.
Yeah, he did.
It's a safe pick for sure. The 49ers would be wrong to make it, but that's realistically where he's going. So Andrew had the first blockbuster trade because one or two might happen this upcoming draft. He had the number 4 pick, which was the Atlanta pick. He traded out of it to get for Dallas traded in to get the 4th pick. So Atlanta with the 10th pick now in this draft. He took Kyle Pitts to play with Dak Prescott and that ridiculous wide receiver team crew over there. Jay was a little skeptical about Dallas jumping up this far. Andrew really wanted to make it happen. We had to force the trade, so be it. But the Kyle Pitts was worth. I think we gave like 2 first-round picks and a second round and a third round pick to Atlanta. So Atlanta stocks up for their future draft picks really well here.
I like this for Dallas. My question was how bad a position it puts Atlanta in going forward from there. Because in this mock that we have, they're getting Patrick Surtain, who's great. He's going to be a good corner. But, you go from the second overall prospect in Kyle Pitts, like Trevor Lawrence. The mock drafts are great, right? The teams are going to pick who they're going to pick. The best players in this draft, number 1 is Trevor Lawrence. Number 2 is Kyle Pitts. Number 3 is probably like Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase. Choose your flavor. And then it's Justin Fields. So, it was a little worrisome to me how far Atlanta went back. They did get a lot of draft capital back because we gave them a second and a third, and then they gave back a 4th. So that's pretty good, as Asa mentioned. But
they stock up on the defense and everything. And it just goes back to, in the first one we were talking about, I was trying to convince you guys for Atlanta to take Trey Lance. We took Kyle Pitts in the first one. But the reason why I was pushing hard for Trey Lance in that scenario is because their GM Terry Fontenot wants Trey Lance, and they're having the creative differences you can call them between what they want to take, and then one of them wants to take Kyle Pitts, and then they're also talking about trading that pick now. So I went with the latter. I went with the trading of the picks, and because I had that pick later in the draft at 10 for a team who was, really, really interested in Kyle Pitts, and if they can get him, they want to take him. So that's why it leaves a little bit for Atlanta desired. Sorry, Ace, but
no, you're good. I'm surprised that like the Kyle Pitts trade gets a B+ here. I know it wasn't necessarily like a strong need, but I mean Blake Jarwin did miss the whole season. There's nothing that suggests that he'll be the same coming back from his injury. I know that's not as likely, but Kyle Pitts will be tight end number 1 and probably the second option on the field, regardless, being drafted that high by the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones should have, for as much as he, for as long as he's run this team, he should have won last season with, the way that the landscape of his division was, except he lost his quarterback. So he signed in his quarterback for the future, the immediate future. He gets the top playmaker. So I could see Dallas definitely jumping up this high. I'm just surprised.
Have fun, Chicago. You got the guy who trapped him.
I'm surprised we got a B+ here, just because I think Kyle Pitts, even if it doesn't necessarily fit versus PFF's needs for the teams, I think Kyle Pitts is an A regardless of where he goes anywhere on this draft board. So
anywhere.
Agreed. Couldn't have said it better.
We'll choose the next two down here. We have Penei Sewell, B+ to the Cincinnati Bengals, and Jamar Chase, wide receiver, B+. So again, I think these should have also been A's. The Bengals have a tackle need. Joey Burrow missed 8 games last season, and Jamar Chase, the number 1 highly rated wide receiver off of this board. Both of those teams needed a playmaker. Well, the Dolphins needed a wide receiver. The Bengals needed a tackle. So surprised that we got a couple B+ here, but I guess a B+ is almost an A.
I mean, you could argue Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell being swapped here, and I think both teams, at the end of the day, if that was the case, absolutely. But
I think if the Bengals don't take Sewell, then the Dolphins definitely will.
It's literally those are 5 and 6. Whoever gets drafted first, the other guy's getting drafted second. When Joey Burrow plays, in his first, he only played in 8 games to start the season. He has 32 sacks, which was tied for second most in the league, and then he gets hit 42 times, which is tied for the 5th most in the league. I just say to go with the tackle, but he's your franchise quarterback. If he comes up to you and says, "Yo, I want Jamar Chase," I mean, what are you gonna do? Tell him to kick rocks? I mean,
right. So the way that I look at it is 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 are going to be pretty relatively close to where we have it in real life. It just depends on who falls into that 4th spot. So we had the Cowboys in our draft. I could see the Broncos jumping up if Justin Fields is still on the board.
Now, quick question, real quick. Now, if Trey Lance gets taken 4th, how fast do the Cincinnati Bengals run to draft Kyle Pitts number 5? Because I think it's right away, right? I mean, Kyle Pitts goes 5 if he's not drafted 4. Like Trey Lance goes 4, or Justin Fields. I think it should be Justin Fields. But anybody besides Kyle Pitts goes 4. How fast are the Bengals putting in for Kyle Pitts?
I don't know. I disagree with you because I think the Bengals take Jamar Chase.
Oh, even if Kyle Pitts is on the board?
Yeah, in my first mock, I had Jamar Chase going to Cincy, and then Miami taking Kyle Pitts.
If I'm the Bengals, I'm going to call up to see how many teams want Kyle Pitts. Because if I can get an extra draft pick out of it and only drop 1 or 2 spots, I would look at that. The Atlanta Falcons, not the Atlanta Falcons. The Cincinnati Bengals ran a lot of 3 wide receiver sets last year, so they have Auden Tate as their wide receiver 3 right now. So the Bengals would like a wide receiver in this draft if they can get one.
Kyle Pitts pretty much is a wide receiver. I mean, and he plays tight end. He's going to be the first player drafted that's not a quarterback. I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be quarterbacks until Kyle Pitts goes. Yeah. And if he is not picked 4, the Bengals are running as fast as Bengal Tigers to go draft Kyle Pitts. That's how fast they're running. So
to answer your question there, if the Falcons go quarterback, the Bengals are on the clock with Kyle Pitts there. The Bengals have another early second round pick too, where in our draft we had Bateman, we had Rondale Moore, We had, I think those two guys still on the board, so they could potentially also get a wide receiver at the beginning of that of the second round too. So,
But
yeah,
what you're
I could
not
see
going to
them.
get is Kyle Pitts, bro.
I could see them going Kyle Pitts in that scenario.
Yeah,
They could
absolutely.
potentially see themselves getting a wide receiver in the second round too. I just don't know if the Bengals want to load up on offense in both, with both of their picks in the first round or the first and second round. But
I'm just gonna hang my hat on the Jamar Chase to Cincinnati thing until I see it, because it just makes too much sense to me. I know Kyle Pitts is the best pass catcher and the second best player on draft boards, but I just think that Jamar Chase pairing up with Joe Burrow again, and like you said, if your franchise quarterback tells you he wants Jamar Chase, which obviously they can be productive together, 20 touchdown season, 1,800 yards, you go get him, and he goes at 5 and.
Now in that case, I'm not gonna tell him to kick rocks, but here's what I'm gonna tell him. Yo, Joey, you got a phone, right? Okay. Text, call, do whatever you gotta do. Game, do whatever relationship building you gotta do to keep your homeboy. Okay. Kyle Pitts is a generational talent. I don't think we've ever seen a tight end ranked like this, bro. I mean, what Kellen Winslow was the last one that I can remember who was like a slam dunk.
Right.
And
our current generation of top tight ends, which is Kelsey and Kittle, were not ranked this high coming out of college.
Even Gronk wasn't. Wasn't.
Yeah, I think all three of them were third round picks.
I mean, dude, it's Kyle Pitts. I tell him sorry.
Noah Fant last year was it last year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago was kind of highly rated coming out of college from Iowa.
But remember, they had two. That's how Kyle Pitts is that good. Like that season, there was it'd be between Noah Fant or T.J. Hawkinson. Both of them could be in this draft, and Kyle Pitts it blow him out of the water. It's not even close.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, in my opinion,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's just sometimes these teams are stupid and just they make incorrect calls. So we could see that happen, right? We could see. I
can't project stupidity. Yeah, I can't. I mean, they do. I can't project dumb stuff.
We're 3 weeks out and we're projecting stupidity with Mac Jones going to San Francisco.
Oh my God! I don't. Dude, is it okay? I know we're getting a little off topic, bro.
It's not us.
We're getting a little off topic with this stuff, bro. It's got to be the biggest smoke and mirror possible, right? So you're gonna tell me, and I don't like Colin Cowherd, but I was listening to him today, and he actually brought up a solid point. Jimmy Garoppolo is a steady distributor of the football, doesn't make plays off script, doesn't do anything spectacular, just game manager, gets the ball into the playmaker's hands, right? Mm-hmm. And you're having problems with that. So our answer is going to be to give up a whole bunch of first round picks and a whole bunch of picks to go get a guy who fits the same mold as that? It doesn't make sense to me, bro. It doesn't make sense to me. Justin Fields is leaps and bounds more talented. I mean, you can argue that he had a little. If you look at the numbers and production, it's boom, boom. They're right there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like Mac Jones there, but I think he's their pick. They're slotted in there right now, and a lot of these times these rumors are just smoke and mirrors. For what it's worth, Maybe they thought they would have won the division every year the last few years if Jimmy G was healthy and he wasn't, so they lost. Maybe that's their reasoning. Okay, we can put in Mac Jones right away, get rid of Jimmy G, maybe try to get a second or third round pick next year out of him, and then I don't even know if they would get that. But
but here's the problem with that rationale, Ace. Right? Here's the problem: if you're a GM and a coaching staff, these guys aren't stupid. Yeah. They make a ton of money, right? Absolutely. Right now, with Jimmy Garoppolo, you have one of the best running games in football. You have one of the best offensive lines in football. You have one of the best defenses in football. You have a very good pass catching core, right? The minute that you get Mac Jones and you eventually pay him and stuff, that stuff starts to chip away. We're already starting to see that with the Chiefs. We have to make cuts. People are having to take pay cuts. Some people who aren't. We just got rid of both of our starting tackles. Both of them. Not one of them. And they were both solid offensive tackles. But we said bye to both of them. And this is what happens. If you're going to have a quarterback and you're going to draft him in the top 3, he has to overcome a ton of obstacles. How many obstacles does Mac Jones have to overcome? I mean, the dude in 2 years had Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, Najee Harris. I mean, dude, you're loaded. The best defense in college football, the best coach in college football.
Can we make a point possibly here that the 49ers don't go quarterback? What if they go Kyle Pitts?
Then they're even dumber for not selecting Mac Jones. I think that's an even dumber move than selecting Mac Jones because you don't do something dumb like
George Kittle. I mean, yeah, it just doesn't that would make yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
I'd punch my TV most likely. They're not even I'd punch my TV.
All right, we could probably keep it going here, but yeah, I can go on for days about how silly of a decision that would be, bro.
Right. Okay. So we have Justin Fields going off the board here at 7 to the Detroit Lions. We got an A+ for that pick by PFF's grades. If Justin Fields is there at 7, the Lions draft their quarterback of the future. Jared Goff is not your quarterback of the future. He can play for another season for you. If Justin Fields, you want to play him behind, Jared Goff. But I think they would give that investment to Jared Goff next season. What do you think?
I just real quick, I'm not gonna talk. I saw the silliest take ever. I think it was NBC Sports. I think it was I don't know if it was Phil Simms. I don't know who it was. Oh well, if you draft Justin Fields, what are you doing to Jared Goff and his mantra over there? I don't give a darn about Jared Goff and his feelings. I don't care.
I know.
If
exactly.
I'm drafting Justin Fields, I don't give a rip on if Jared Goff is looking over his shoulder for Justin Fields. Jared, I'll save you the worry. Don't look over your shoulder. He's taking your job. That's why I brought him in here, okay? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I heard that yesterday, and I was like, you're joking, right?
Last season, Fitzpatrick was starting over to turn the ball over, and Fitzpatrick was ripped out of that role after he was doing well. The Dolphins were...
they were 2-2.
2-2?
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were a couple games better than that. But anyways, so you turned it over to a guy, and I have to mess with him because I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, and we're in the division together. The Dolphins don't like the Buffalo Bills either, so it's copacetic. So for that being said, I would have much preferred to see Justin Fields switch over for Jared Goff after a few games. I think that would be more appropriate. I think Tua needed a little bit more time before Tua time became a thing. What's silly though is they won I think the next 4 games in Miami, but I wouldn't attribute any of those wins to Tua specifically. So I could see Justin Fields starting Game 5 for the Detroit Lions next season if they take him here.
Yeah, he kind of does what Lamar Jackson kind of did when Joe Flacco was the quarterback for the Ravens. Jump in halfway through somewhere around there and, possibly get into the playoffs and get a little bit of experience real early. But yeah, if Justin Fields is there at 7, I mean, that's by Jared, like you said, Jay, who cares about Jared Goff's feelings? You just got traded for a 32-year-old. And I mean, Matthew Stafford's still a good quarterback, but it's pretty clear and obvious that you're no longer wanted as a starter.
Stafford flirted with top 10 potential and was maybe the 8 to 10 range as far as quarterbacks in the league go, I guess. Jared Goff has always probably been 18 to 20th in the league. I'm probably sure for the last 5 years he's been in the league, we could have picked 18 other quarterbacks we liked more, right, Jay? Come on.
I mean, pretty close to 18. I mean, shoot. Once we start getting down to the nitty gritty, Kirk Cousins is better than him. There are a lot of guys that people don't like that are better than Jared.
To me, Jared Goff reads as a game manager at this point. And the Detroit Lions don't have enough around him for him to be a successful game manager. So
get Justin Fields some regular season reps because you're going to be sitting at home on a pine watching the big boys play in the playoffs.
So I like that. Yeah, we like Justin Fields a lot there. So they gave us a C- for Rashawn Slater, the tackle out of Northwestern to the Carolina Panthers.
I didn't know we were doing dumb grades. I didn't know we were giving those out. Funny.
So
C-.
The second, arguably 1B as far as tackles go. He's going to go high.
You just got your starting quarterback. You have playmate. You have 2 wide receiver ones. You have Christian McCaffrey. Your defense is not great, but okay.
Sam Darnold got a little short end of the stick there. And Sam Darnold wants. He said statement. He said he wanted to play 20 years for the Jets and he wanted to win multiple Super Bowls. Well, it isn't happening there. So I mean, he has an opportunity now in Carolina. So
I'm a Sam Darnold guy, bro. So I still think I mean, there were throws that people were ranting and raving about Zach Wilson making that I saw Sam Darnold make in NFL games on Sundays already.
Right.
So, I mean, it's egregious. I think if you were just real quick, I know I go off topic a lot. I'm very sorry. If you're the Jets, you should have kept Sam flipping Darnold, traded back to like 4, let someone else go get a quarterback that they want. And get Kyle Pitts. Get Kyle Pitts. You have Corey Davis. Your defense, you can draft defense at the end of the draft. It's a loaded offensive line draft, but whoosah. You do your thing, Joe. You do your thing, Joe. Okay?
So we will also do our thing here. We did our thing and had the Broncos take Trey Lance, A+ grade right there. I think that's a perfect fit for Trey Lance. If Justin Fields was on the board, they would have taken Justin Fields there too. Trey Lance is a nice QB out of North Dakota State. A little bit of work to do, but Elway's could very well be the perfect fit for him there. So we like that pick a lot. We had
and he doesn't have to play right away, dude. You got number 1 overall draft pick Team Cheeks over there who's going to do awfully in the first part of the season, and then Trey Lance comes in, looks like the savior. I mean, the Broncos aren't winning anything, bro. Like, let's just be honest. Like, the Broncos need to look at themselves and be like, hey, bro, like, we're in the division with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Chargers. This dude needs the red shirt the entire year. Just sit back and pick John Elway's brain and learn how to play quarterback. Dude only started 1 season. I talk about Zach Wilson not having enough tape. This dude only played 1 season. He's 20 years old, literally as raw as you could possibly imagine. So, yeah, let Team Cheeks take all the heat this year and then let Trey Lance come in next year.
For his sake, I hope he kind of gets like the spiritual journey that Josh Allen out of Buffalo went through, where Josh didn't sit the whole first season. He did. I think he started his first game against like Baltimore in the season, and then played a few games to finish the season. So, number 10 pick here, we dropped back. The Falcons dropped back with Dallas's pick, so we got a D here. The Atlanta Falcons have a cornerback need, so I don't know why we got a D. Not sure, but regardless, in our first draft, we had the Dallas Cowboys taking Patrick here. So we have him in the same spot. We just have him with a different team.
Yeah, I think it's still a good pick just because of who the player is. I guess because of the trade from 4 to 10, that doesn't help. But again, we mentioned it a little earlier about, the GM wanting one thing, the owner wanting another, and the head coach wanting a completely different thing. I just, if you can't decide, you trade out and you help, as long as Julio Jones and Matt Ryan are healthy next year, you add in, you still have a really solid receiving core and a great group of receivers. Like maybe you take a running back sometime later in this draft if you're Atlanta, but you have Hayden Hurst at tight end. You have Julio Jones. I'm sorry, I live with Hayden Hurst first. It's just I forgot to mention who their tight end was a second ago. You have Calvin Ridley. You have Russell Gage, who's a nice complementary piece. You have a couple. I mean, you should be okay offensively. Mike Davis, they just signed.
He's 80% of Christian McCaffrey,
basically. So I don't. If they decide to trade back and get defensive help in a draft that's just kind of completely loaded with impact players. I mean, especially at corner to pair with AJ Terrell, who obviously showed signs of. If you watched him against the Chiefs, AJ Terrell absolutely balled. Like AJ Terrell balled against the Chiefs, and that was a close game that shouldn't have been. But if you add Patrick Surtain, I don't see what the D is. I mean, maybe give me a C+ because the trade wasn't that great. But
the trade is phenomenal.
I don't understand.
Trade it back, swap first rounds this year, get a first next year.
They get 2
second round swaps. You get a first next year and a third. Get out of here, dude.
They get the first defensive player off the board, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's the first and warranted. I think. I mean, it's choose your flavor, bro. If you'd rather have, the D line in this draft is more deep, right? Like you can get some guys at the end. We've talked about some pass rushers. We'll get into a few. Unless you're looking for inside linebacker help, which, I mean, they could definitely look there too. Their secondary is just absolutely terrible. It has been since Dan Quinn got there. That's something they haven't been able to fix. Patrick Surtain is a one-on-one corner, and he does a lot of great things that you're going to have to do in that division to cover a lot of these good wide receivers. Look at their division, how many wide receivers are in their darn division, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a ton of them. And again, making out with a first and a third next year is pretty gosh darn good to move back only 6 picks. Now, me
Michael
personally,
Thomas.
I think at 4 there, you're good taking Kyle Pitts. I would take Kyle Pitts if you're gonna stick with Matt Ryan. That's just me personally.
Mm-hmm.
But Patrick Surtain there, D is absolutely ridiculous. PFF, get it together. And this next one is awful too. A B- for Micah Parsons at the Giants.
Yeah, so these are like the consensus like best defensive players in the draft, right? So we have them going back to back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with Parsons there. PFF should have graded that probably a B.
I mean, dude, their needs are O linemen. For some reason, for some god awful reason, people think that their need is wide receiver. The amount of people that I see tell me that the Giants need a wide receiver. Do y'all understand? You guys understand because you guys are smart, right? Darius Slayton is there. Kenny Golladay is there. Sterling Shepard is there. You have Evan Ingram and you have Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones, I don't want to hear it. All right? It's unbelievable that the fact that people think that they need to go for another wide receiver here. Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in this draft. He really is. Dude, sideline to sideline, 3-down linebacker, covers in man coverage, in zone coverage, gets after the quarterback, a stud in the run game. I mean, it's unbelievable that this is a B-.
Yeah, okay? And Micah Parsons might go to 10 in this scenario to the Falcons too, so.
Oh, 100%. Oh, easily you can see him going there.
But yeah, they needed a little bit more secondary help, so you take the potentially top rated cornerback guy here, even though we like Caleb Farley a lot too. So I'm like, I like that pick a lot too, because it kind of proves to you then, is Daniel Jones your guy? If he's not your guy, then it doesn't matter how many people you put around him. Jared Goff has Robert Woods and
Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers, Malcolm Brown. I mean, not like Malcolm Brown's not amazing, but he has players, and if he's not the guy, you get rid of him. Like
you can only do so much before you got to make the trade to an older quarterback like Matthew Stafford, who's going to elevate your team to a more successful season. Maybe you don't get knocked out in the first round, right?
I mean, how much more is getting a wide receiver going to show you about Daniel Jones? That's my question.
Exactly.
He doesn't have enough of them. I mean, you just gave one of the biggest contracts to a wide receiver in the last 5 years right now to Kenny Golladay.
Insert Daniel Jones gif of his face when he fell on that open 80-yard touchdown run.
Sniper!
Oh, he's down. Okay, so Devontae Smith to Alabama. That was my pick. I just chose him over Waddle because I like Smith a little bit more than Waddle. By no means do I think either is a bad pick. I just have Smith a little more highly graded.
Both studs. I agree with you. I think Andrew does. Or I think Andrew might have Waddle a little higher. Andrew likes Waddle.
Well, in the first mock I had, we had Justin Fields going 3, so I had Waddle going 7 to Detroit because he's more of like a do everything kind of receiver. And then I had Devontae Smith going 12 here to Philly like we have because he can complement that the opposite of Jalen Reagor, who they kind of like can hopefully rectify and maybe justify it a little bit more why they took him 23rd overall ahead of Justin Jefferson.
Because let's be real here, like what Greg
18th,
Ward,
I'm
right?
sorry.
Greg Ward, like
Travis Fulgham.
He had a
Travis
couple,
Fulgham is
both of those guys had a couple nice games last season, but you don't need a couple nice games. You need someone who's going to take the team's best cornerback away, or over the top safety or someone, so you can free up Jalen Reagor to do some dirty business on the field, right?
Yeah. I have Smith ranked a little higher, so that's why I'm good with this. And Andrew and I actually had it very similar, where I had Devontae Smith going to the Lions and Jalen Waddle going to the Eagles. So I think this is a great pick. You got to give Jalen Hurts a chance. Miles Sanders is there. Jalen Reagor, they have a good offensive line still. You add Devontae Smith. I think that's really good.
Yeah. Andrew was making a good point about Jalen Reagor. It might justify the fact that they drafted him last year. So Elijah Vera Tucker was Andrew's pick here, tackle out of USC. We got a D for that. So on our board, Elijah Vera Tucker was the number 1.
Look what happens when I agree with you, Johnny.
On PFF's board,
look what happens.
He was like number 5. So that's why we got the D. Justin Herbert needs a left tackle to guard his ass because Justin Herbert's going to be special in this league. He needs to work on his haircuts a little bit. Just shave it off like me, bro. But yeah, I can definitely see Elijah Vera Tucker going this high. At first, I wasn't sold, but Jay mentioned a lot of good points for Vera Tucker to be this highly ranked. So
I didn't know getting the best offensive lineman on the board would get you a D. It's egregious, absolutely ridiculous. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. He literally played one season at left tackle. He's an elite guard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into anything else, he's the best guard in the draft, right? He don't even play guard right now. He played left tackle all last season and was phenomenal at it. I don't understand. I really don't.
3-year starter, right? 3-year starter?
3-year starter. He played the first 2 at guard, then had to go to left tackle, and then they saw him at left tackle last year, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, this guy's actually a really good tackle."
That's why he's gonna go higher, because he proved that he could do it
versatility,
last year.
dude. I mean, on the offensive line, look at how many people on the offensive line are constantly being shuffled around on these teams, bro. You have to have somebody who can play a bunch of positions. Dude can go either guard spot. Dude can go swing tackle, either tackle spot. It was elite. If you look at the metrics last year, at tackle, he was elite, right? Mm-hmm. So if you just evaluate him as a left tackle, he's the next best tackle in this draft. I mean, you can argue Dershaw, who I saw some lackadaisical film on. I mean, I still think Dershaw is a great prospect, but Vera Tucker is more of a sure thing. He's not a project. You have a quarterback already that's ready to compete, an offense with skill players that are ready to compete, a defense that the Chargers are always excited. Every year I hear about, get ready for this Chargers defense, and then the freaking Chiefs go hang 35 on them. So,
he's gonna be super happy to be playing in California still too. Like, I think he's gonna be hyped that he's staying in LA. So like he'll that's just, like, I know he's not from LA, but
I just don't get how this is a D. Like, right. a C plus, what? It's a D for the next best offensive lineman on a team that had the worst PFF rated offensive line in the league last year?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So for the 14th pick here, Jay had Minnesota. He traded with me for the Indianapolis Colts. Because Jalen Waddle was still on the board. The Colts need a wide receiver. Not that like it's the biggest potential need, but they have Michael Pittman Jr. there, a little injured last season, didn't maybe hit his stride as much, but
they brought T.Y. Hilton back too.
They're rebuilding their offense. T.Y. Hilton's a 1-year contract, so he'll be gone after next year. Jalen Waddle can learn underneath the Wiley vet right there. But I like that pick a lot. They Andrew liked Jalen Waddle a lot too and thought he was going to go much higher than this too, right? So
yeah, I had him going a lot higher, but now, I mean, if he's able to get to this spot, that's a tremendous like move for Indianapolis to get Carson Wentz a player of his ability like that. So,
and then we talked about like you could only put so many weapons around Daniel Jones. It's the same for Carson Wentz here, right? You can only put so many players around him before you realize he's the problemo, and you look at other options next season.
Yeah, Waddle's best available here, though. I mean, if you look at everything, you can argue that maybe they take one of these 2 corners that we have going next, but Waddle's a great pick there. Asa mentioned that Ty is only going to be there for another year. Carson Wentz needs some love, baby. I mean, good Lord, did they eat him up in Philly? Gave him nothing. I mean, the dude was throwing to absolutely nobody last year, bro.
Yeah, I was trying to think of who his targets were, and I'm pretty sure he had Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson as his starters. I think
that was what the starters were going into that.
And the Eagles offensive line versus the Indianapolis Colts offensive line, even though I know they're losing Costanza, is leaps and bounds different. Like, the Colts will protect
It's much
him.
better. Yeah, it's much better. Yeah.
Oh, and Jalen Waddle with Jonathan Taylor, like, they probably got the running back out of the draft last year, right? So they could have the wide receiver out of this draft and the running back out of last year's draft.
And if you think you have your quarterback, and if you think you have your quarterback, this is the way to go. Right. In a division that's a lot that looks a lot more winnable now. I mean, Tennessee was obviously they're still going to be a very good team. Mike Vrabel has that team very well coached. Their defense is not very good. Their offense lost a little sting without Jonnu Smith and without Corey Davis. We have them kind of rectifying that towards the end of the draft. We'll get to that, but Jalen Waddle here is a great pick.
Right, and Andrew, you had mentioned like Waddle's kind of a do everything type of guy. So maybe they needed that right in this offense. I mean, that way, like Jonathan Taylor can focus on running. Michael Pittman, more of a what kind of wide receiver is like he is he a slot guy? I
Well, I
can't.
mean, Jay mentioned it. He can play. Well, let me say this first. So he can play on the outside. He can play in the slot. He can catch out the backfield. He can return. He can basically do everything you need a guy with the ball in his hands to do. So I think just the biggest thing is being able to get him and then let Frank Reich, who is a very good offensive coach and former coordinator in this league, figure out the rest.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing about like Jalen Waddle fitting in here is that he's probably going to have good opportunities and a good chance to cement himself because they brought back T.Y. Hilton, but he's probably gone after one more year. And then you pair him with a guy like Michael Pittman, who's an up and coming bigger target, who's 6'4", about 220, can go up and get after it. Like down the field, that gives Carson Wentz now a lot of options when and they love to go with a 3 tight end. They love to go with their 3 tight end like rotation: Mo Alley Cox, Jack Doyle, and Trey Burton. So
which I think they're gonna go away from that a little bit, right?
If you take Jalen Waddle, I certainly hope you do because now you have a better guy.
I feel like they handicapped P Rivers there last year, right? Like by giving him the 3 tight ends, making him be super safe.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to give him as many easy targets as possible.
So
yeah,
I even though it might not be come to fruition, I think they're going to go away from the 3 tight end at rotations and focus a little bit more on their young studs on the field, which would be Waddle here and Michael Pittman, and then obviously they would still use their tight ends, but I don't think you need to go 3 deep all the time or as often as they were going at the very least.
The thing that Waddle adds for them is the dynamic playmaking after he has the ball. When you look at their receiving core and their in general last year, T.Y. Hilton's not a guy that makes things happen after the catch. Michael Pittman does it to some extent, but he's a guy that goes up, makes contested catches. Jalen Waddle is elite with the ball in his hands. He's actually Todd McShay's number 1 satellite player. When Todd McShay says satellite players, he means guys in space, which is kind of funny when you think about it, but yeah. So Jalen Waddle is going to bring a lot of that yards after the catch that they desperately need in Indianapolis.
For sure. So the next 2 picks, we have the next 2 cornerbacks off the board. So the Patriots didn't get a quarterback here. They picked the top defensive secondary guy left on the board with J.C. Horn, in my opinion. They got a B there. So Stephon Gilmore was injured last season, but Gilmore and Horn together kind of make a fantastic secondary there. So they play playing against Josh Allen, playing against Zach Wilson in the future, right? Playing against Tua. So Tua Tagovailoa. So yeah, they're going to definitely, and as far, this league is switching to wide receivers being elite, right? Maybe a little bit more valuable than running backs. So the cornerbacks will be like the next premier position to kind of mirror that, right? We might see edge rushers not as high as cornerbacks in the future, just as we kind of see these trends play out.
Yeah, they play a ton of man coverage there in New England. So, being able to stick Stephon Gilmore out there and J.C. Horn, who, again, these 3 corners between Horn, Farley, and Patrick Surtain, choose your flavor. J.C. Horn is a very physical guy at the line of scrimmage, loves to get into the receiver's face, which is a lot of what Stephon Gilmore does. So that's a good little pair in there that I think he can learn a lot from. I've already mentioned a little bit. I think Caleb Farley is the best corner in this draft, in my opinion. I think he's the most savvy, the most football feel type of corner who makes plays.
You would have taken him at 15, right? You would have just switched these picks potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I just like Caleb Farley better as a prospect. So if the Patriots like J.C. Horn, that's fine. I think for what he does, that's fine. I had Caleb Farley in my original mock going 20th.
We got a B plus.
I mean, Caleb Farley's a stud, bro. I mean, he fits exactly like we mentioned. The corners there in Arizona are not very good right now, so huge yet for them. I think they would have been happy with either of them. I had J.C. Horn going to Arizona, so
the Cardinals play against the Seahawks, Rams, right?
Seahawks, Rams, and Niners.
So I almost so the Seahawks have DK, the Rams have Woods and Kupp, but there's not that elite of wide receivers. And I mean, Woods is not a top 10. Kupp is not a top 10. They're like 10 to 20 range. DK, I guess I could see. Yeah, I guess DK is a top 10 wide receiver, but
Based off
quarterbacks.
last year, probably.
Yeah, so quarterbacks are not necessarily like that like coveted in that division, but for what it's worth, I still like the pick a lot. I think they should go cornerback if given the opportunity.
Right now, their starting cornerbacks are Desmond Trufant and Jalen Johnson. Or that's for Chicago. I apologize. For Arizona, their starting quarterbacks are Drake Kirkpatrick and then obviously Patrick Peterson last season. Drake Kirkpatrick, out of 121 corners, ranked 83rd, and Patrick Peterson ranked 107th.
Right, Patrick Peterson is not what he used to be. So
Caleb Farley in 2019, the last season that he played a full schedule, allowed a 24.4 completion percentage when he was the closest defender.
yeah, right.
Unbelievable.
So I had the Patriots pick there with J.C. Horn. Andrew took Caleb Farley to Arizona. Jay took Trevon Moehrig. So we had 3 secondary guys in a row. Raiders have an obvious safety concern. One of the worst secondaries in the league. I think 30th ish. A+ grading there makes sense. That was one of their definite needs. And then just to talk about it, and then we can kind of break these down. Kwity Paye, the edge rusher to Miami. Miami was terrible off the edge last season. They have to play against Josh Allen, and they need a guy who can, match up with his size, because Josh Allen did kind of pancaked Van Noy last season. So Kwity Paye will give him a little bit of resistance for sure, though. What do you guys think about Moehrig and Paye? You guys like those picks there, right?
Yeah, I love both of them. We mentioned it on the previous broadcast. Trevon Moehrig is going to pair with former first-round pick Carl Joseph that the Raiders took. He's returning back to the Raiders for 2021. So that secondary is going to be pretty solidified if they're able to get Moehrig here. And then I'll just be quick with Kwity Paye. He's a big he's a big edge defender at about 260, but he's explosive as all hell. He played in the Big Ten, absolutely dominated offensive lines. Played against the likes of guys like Rashawn Slater and just completely dominated. And Brian Flores wants a guy who he can use that's pretty versatile. And at 260, he could line him up, kind of anywhere, and be a little creative is where he can line him up across the line. And if he falls to 18, that's going to be a huge get for Miami.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I originally had him going 11th to the Giants, but in this one, if Micah Parsons is still there, the Giants can't keep their eyes off of Micah Parsons. Kwity Paye is so explosive. How explosive is he? He ran a faster 3-cone drill than Von Miller. So Von Miller's pretty quick, or even so. Emmanuel Ogbah there for the Dolphins played really well last year. I've mentioned him a few times. They've seen his growth kind of continue. We mentioned already Kyle Van Noy and Shaq Lawson not being there anymore for obvious reasons. Not very good over there. Trevon Moehrig, he'll play the over-the-top safety more. We talked about this again on the last draft a little bit. Free safety type of guy. Can come in and bang on the strong safety, but that's what Carl Joseph's department is, because dude can't play over the top to save his life, gets burnt all the time. So you get Trevon Moehrig over there. We had him going to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's going to be a little ticked off that he's not falling all the way down there in this draft if this is what happens. So both picks are pretty good. I like both.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm a little surprised that we got a B for Miami, though. Miami does need an edge rusher, so whatever.
Position of need, one of the best ones on the board. I don't get it. PFF, get it together.
Christian Darrisaw, tackle out of VTech, got us to be there too, even though Washington has a tackle need as well. Newsome, the second out of Northwestern, goes here to Chicago. So both of these teams, 19 and 20, could have used a quarterback. All the top quarterbacks are off the board, so both these teams just fill immediate needs. The Bears, I think Jay had mentioned Jalen Johnson and
Drake Kirkpatrick, baby.
Kirkpatrick as the cornerbacks there. So Newsome, is the potential 4th best cornerback out of this draft, but we're seeing a high value being put into cornerbacks this year. For as I mentioned, as much as the league values wide receivers, there has to be guys that play opposite the ball. So Newsome,
and they're good. They're all really good. Greg Newsome in the last 2 years has 20 PBUs. The pass breakups, the interceptions haven't been there as much, but you love to see that kind of nose for the football he's able to find. I had Farley going here in my first mock, but Greg Newsome here does a lot of the same things that Farley does, but just a little bit of a notch down for me. Not a huge drop off because, again, I think all 4 of these corners are exceptional and all going to be real good additions to whatever team they find themselves on, because corner and wide receiver, man, like it's pretty much one-on-one out there. You get a lot of rotated coverages, but as I mentioned a few episodes ago, these guys are looking at it very much more like isolation basketball now when they're out there trying to win their matchups, because that's genuinely kind of what it is. So Greg Newsome's a guy that can go out there and make plays and get dirty in the secondary. Chicago needs that with those starters that I mentioned.
So we got some B grades here. Jalen Phillips, the edge out of Miami, going to the Vikings. This is the trade that I pulled off with Jay. So the Vikings dropped back, still were able to fill in a hole on their team. They could have potentially used a tackle, but since both highly rated tackles were off the board, they dropped a little bit to get potentially the second best edge rusher from this draft. So then we have the Browns, who in our simulation of the draft, they really wanted to jump up a couple of times. Take Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah here. That was Andrew's pick, I believe.
I had the Browns.
Oh, you had that pick. Yeah,
it was the Titans pick, and then I traded back 4 spots.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, let me. It didn't show up here, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Jalen Phillips. He didn't play last season. No, he played last season, right? But he took his second year off, if I'm remembering all this correctly.
Yes.
So
yeah.
A little potentially undervalued there. And then Jeremiah right there, Owusu is probably the rawest left linebacker here, but has a lot of upside for a Browns team that can build around him. Stefanski.
I saw some comps for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and they were comping him to Derwin James. If the Browns can get a guy like Derwin James that can do what Derwin James did when he was healthy, that's a big get for them too at 22. That's something that they could really immediately use. He's a lot bigger than Derwin James, but if he's that rangy and that fast and
he's got to play against
that
Lamar,
physical,
right?
then I mean, geez,
dude, he's Micah Parsons light, bro. Like, literally does a lot of the same things that Micah Parsons does from that inside linebacker position.
He's gonna have some fun playing against Lamar Jackson twice a year in that division.
I mean, right now, Anthony Walker is their starting inside linebacker. Jeremiah Owusu comes in right now and takes that spot.
Never heard of the guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, and he's a 3-down guy. I mean, he's a lot like Micah Parsons. He plays in the pass coverage in both man and zone. He can run with tight ends. He's ran with slot corners before. I'm almost positive he ran 4.4. I mean, dude, it's ridiculous how athletes are now, bro. I mean, dudes are running in 4.4. I remember when I was a kid and dudes ran 4.4. You're like, this guy ran a 4.4. Now, if you run anything above like a 4.5 and you're not like an offensive or defensive lineman, like you're too slow. And a lot of these defensive linemen still run 4.4. So, that's a great get for them. Jalen Phillips, Todd McShay says is the best pass rusher in this draft. Should have been an A for me for the Vikings to get them there. And with what they were able to get from the trade, got a second-round pick to address that offensive line debacle that they got going on there, which is the offensive linemen are really going to show in the second round. There's a lot of offensive linemen that are popping for the second round. So, I think those are both great picks.
Yeah, I think the Vikings can get one of like 6 guys that will probably fall in the second round as far as line help go. And then, I mean, the Browns had a need for linebacker. We took a linebacker, so probably should have been a little higher graded there, but it is what it is.
The second best inside linebacker in the draft at 22, Ace.
Yeah. So we have Jason Owe to the Jets edge rusher from Penn State, and then we have Landon Dickerson, who I reached for a little bit in terms of like potentially needs here, but Marquise Pouncey just retired out of Pittsburgh, so not necessarily like Jay had mentioned in the first episode, centers can be kind of switched around a little easier than left tackles in this league. But Landon Dickerson can be started from day one to fill in for Pouncey there. I could understand why it's a C- though, maybe just a slight reach, but Dickerson has just been injured. But one of the he'll potentially be one of the best names come out of this draft for the linemen, and then Jason Owe, about our third edge rusher to come off the board here, gets a B+ to the Jets. The Jets needed help on offense and defense last year, so you get a guy who's going to come in here and get a chance to be a day one starter. I like him a lot. Probably should have been an A though for that OA pick, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the Landon Dickerson one is a little like, kind of who cares what the grade is in this sense. I know we've cared about it a little bit on the other ones, but
Yeah, right. Exactly.
he would have possibly been a top 15 pick, maybe
pick,
even
right?
higher if he was healthy. It's a good pick. It's a great pick. As long as he's healthy, he's going to be started for 10 years. We said it during the other broadcast. I mean, and Jason Owe at the going to the Jets would pair really nicely with Quinnen Williams. And it would just start helping the rebuild of Robert Saleh's defense, who, if you remember him from his 49er days, he just absolutely, I mean, obviously they had a plethora of riches on the defensive line with the 49ers, but this is a pretty damn good start if you get Jason Owe here.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned that in our first mock, right? How we think Saleh is going to take the obvious quarterback, but then try to beef up his defense with the top tier who he can get. The Jets have 2 picks in the first round, and they drafted pretty well if by our standards in this mock draft.
I think the upside on Owe is a little higher than like someone like Rousseau who's still left here. So I think Owe is a great pick there. And then Landon Dickerson, there's nothing to be said besides what you guys mentioned. He was a little injury prone in his time at Alabama. He's a starting center for Alabama for 3 years, okay? And first team All-American. Like, dude's a monstrosity, an absolute hoss. And the thing that people don't talk about with centers is you need a little bit of athleticism, especially if you're going to ask your center to get up to the second level, which is something that happens often, especially when you're playing teams that run a 4-3. We kind of talked about that in the first show. But, yeah, both great picks. I like both of them. I think we've done a great job so far. So, PFF, get your grading together.
So, Christian Barmore gets a B+. The defensive tackle out of Alabama goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Rebuilding team 101. They got their quarterback of the future. They plug a hole on defense right away. You build your teams from the lines, so they obviously they most likely will take an offensive tackle or guard or center in with their first pick in the second round too. So they get a defensive day one starter. Barmore's going to drop probably on draft day just because there's a lot of teams who don't necessarily up to this point need help with their defensive line, so to speak, like the middle of your line,
the interior, yeah.
And then Elijah Moore, the Tennessee Titans took him here. This was Andrew's pick. Jay was a little shaken because he wanted Kadarius Toney to go here, but that different flavors, right? So.
Yeah.
The Titans have the ability here to take Toney, Moore, the other Moore, Rashad Bateman. So they have, they will have their pickings as if the draft kind of falls the way it fell for us.
Yeah, Barmore was a surprise to me only because I had Trevon Moore going here, but he went earlier in the draft. He's kind of like if people know Derek Brown from the Panthers, he's kind of that same build. That's his comp right now. And Derek Brown has been absolutely wrecking offensive linemen since he entered the league. He's had pass rushing grades and run stopping grades above 88 in both 2019 and 2020. So he's just an absolute force in the middle of your defensive line. So that's why I went with him there. And then the Elijah Moore thing, I love Kadarius Toney too. I think Kadarius Toney is probably going to be possibly a better player than Elijah Moore. I think Mike Vrabel, though, just knowing who kind of he is, takes the more polished slot receiver and more traditional slot receiver, as opposed to a guy like Toney, where we have him going later in the draft we have him going to New Orleans. They could be a little more creative in what he could do, just because of the skill set that he possesses.
Yeah, I like those. I like your rationale.
Yeah,
we'll have to wait to see how it plays out, right?
Yeah, for Barmore, it's pretty simple. The easiest way to win football games is to get a really good quarterback and then get someone to get the other team's quarterback. So pretty good start for Jacksonville to get their quarterback and then get someone else to go get the other guy. Morig doesn't drop, as Andrew mentioned here. I can still see him dropping a little bit towards this area, but Barmore is a great pick right here. I just like Tony because I think he's more polished, to be honest. I know you mentioned that for Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore is more tough, gritty, which I can see that stuff working in Tennessee. He makes a lot of contested catches. Tony offers me a little more separation, a little more versatility, kind of in the realm of Corey Davis, where Corey Davis played a lot of his snaps inside, but he also was able to go outside and handle some business out there. Tony's a bigger guy than Elijah Moore is. I can see what you're saying about the playmaking ability of Elijah Moore out of the slot. Tony plays a lot out of the slot as well. So either way there, I think that's good. As you can see, we have quite the runner wide receivers here. I just think those are the best players on the board and the best players available for those teams and the best fit, to be honest. So we'll get into a little bit more here, but more there is good start.
Absolutely. So we got for what it's worth, we took 3 wide receivers in a row here. So Terrace Marshall Jr., we mocked him to Baltimore in our first mock draft. We're doing it again here, B+ grade. He is not the run around Hollywood Brown, but he should be able to catch some contested balls there from Lamar. Lamar's a great quarterback, so he has another offensive weapon that isn't a running back. And then Kadarius Toney here goes to the New Orleans Saints. He's going to probably catch 10 touchdowns next year from Jameis Winston, but yeah, also a nice pick. We got to see though from the Saints there. I mean, a wide receiver was, they needed a wide receiver potentially for depth. They needed a linebacker for depth. They needed a cornerback for depth. So we went with the top wide receiver in terms of Jay's rationale. That was a steal then. So at number 28 in the draft too, no less.
I had him taking Elijah Moore because I had Kadarius Toney going to the Titans, but a little bit higher at 22 without the trade. And then you look at Terrace Marshall, huge, plays on the outside. Put Hollywood Brown in the slot. Give him some easy stuff. Dude's tiny, okay? All right. Help me out, Baltimore. Help Lamar out.
And he was so great after the catch in college that it sucks to not see him be able to utilize that Hollywood Brown that is in Baltimore. He was so great after the catch in college, and but Terrace Marshall is that's exactly what they need, and that's gonna really tell the story too about Lamar Jackson. And I don't think many people are questioning whether Lamar Jackson's the long-term answer for the Ravens, but this will really be giving him that outside target that could actually win on the outside and allow him to make those deep throws down the field. And then we already talked about Kadarius Toney. I think that's a great pick. I don't think Traquan Smith is the guy. I know you mentioned Ace possibly in a previous show that they were really interested in Traquan Smith.
That's the rumors. That's the rumors I'm hearing. That
I'm just not a fan. I've seen him. He's not a very fluid receiver. He's not exactly what they need opposite of a guy like Michael Thomas, who's a big bodied guy. Kadarius Toney is a perfect fit for New Orleans if they get him here. He probably won't be on the board on draft day. I think it's just because of the way our mock is going that Kadarius Toney ended up in New Orleans. But I like all our picks so far.
Don't you guys love this second mock draft? I think we did really well. We all kind of chose the player, but I think it rolled out really well so far. So
I agree.
The Saints don't need anybody, guys. I mean, Traquan Smith last year had 34 catches for 448 yards and 4 touchdowns with Michael Thomas missing half of the year. So apparently the Saints know something that we don't. He's their second wide receiver right now, Traquan Smith. I mean, Jameis Winston is going to throw the ball to the other team a lot. So you better have some guys that he wants to throw the ball to on your squad because you already know he likes throwing it to the other guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Jay was next on the board. He took Jamin Davis, linebacker out of Kentucky here. He gave you a breakdown of 3 4s versus 4 3s at some point in this draft too. I don't know if it started here, but we got a C for that. The Packers have a need for a linebacker, so we're probably got the C because in terms of PFF's big boards, Davis was, I think, 4 linebackers.
Yeah, load of Bahui, what that is.
Lower there. And then with my pick, I had the Buffalo Bills pick. I took Gregory Rousseau, the edge out of Miami, which is C+ grade there. Again, the Bills could have used Barrymore if he dropped here. They needed edge help, and there's talks that maybe a running back goes here. But I think I think the Bills look towards a running back in the second round. So I think the smarter pick here was to beef up the edge. So I'm completely content with my Bills pick there. I think that was The C plus is probably a little inappropriate. The who cares though? But the Jimmy Davis to me is a stretch because I don't know him as well. But Jay's really sold on him. So
Yeah, there's a lot of people really sold on him. He had a great pro day. He's still, relatively, I mean, a novice, I guess, because he didn't play a whole lot. He really played a lot last season. But all I can do is, look at the tape and look at what the guys are saying and all the scouts and stuff. His draft stock is rising like crazy. At 29, people are, if I were to tell people I think he's going to go 29, they're going to think I'm lowballing where he's going to go and that he's actually going to go higher. 3-down guy at Kentucky, was able to play in the pass, in the run, very, very well. A sideline to sideline guy. We talked about a few of these inside linebackers already with Owosu and with Parsons, but if you look at Jamin Davis, I had Nick Bolton going here. The Green Bay Packers are going to be ecstatic if they can get Jamin Davis instead of Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is a run-stuffing inside linebacker. If you look at the Green Bay Packers and who they have on their roster coming into this year, their inside linebackers combined have 119 tackles because Christian Kirksey left. I've already mentioned that a few times. So there's a big need at the position. You go get a guy who's extremely talented and can come in and make a difference and play a lot of snaps and eat up the middle of the field there defensively. I think this is a steal and a no-brainer for them at 29.
I'd like to add here too, the Packers with Aaron Rodgers will score a lot of points. So I don't necessarily see teams trying to run the ball on the Packers a lot. So why not go for the coverage guy? That even makes more sense to me now that you were talking a little bit more. So teams are going to be throwing on the Packers a little bit more than, because they will potentially be behind against Green Bay. So yeah, why not go for the sure guy that can drop into coverage for you?
Yeah, I'll start with the Gregory Rousseau pick real quick. The C plus is is really low, but I think that's a great pick for Buffalo here. They really need it. Jerry Hughes is on the other side of 30 now. He's 32. Still being productive, but eventually you're going to need replacements for it. And Jerry Hughes is the great guy to learn from. He's a seasoned, savvy veteran. The Jamin Davis thing, the one thing I'll say is that when was Green Bay last at their best with Mike Pettin as their defensive coordinator? Right, the last time they were at their best is when they had Blake Martinez. And who was Blake Martinez playing behind? He was playing behind Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, and Kenny Clark. And to have that, to bring back, to get a guy they lost him obviously to New York, and he's over the Giants now. But Jamin Davis is the kind of guy who's a tackle machine, got a nose for the football, can cover sideline to sideline. What did Blake Martinez do well? Those things. And that's when they were at their best. And that's back in 2018 when both Zadarius and Preston were able to get after the quarterback because the coverage behind was so well orchestrated by the middle of the man defensive quarterback, Blake Martinez, who will now be Jamin Davis. So that's the way I look at it. I like the pick there.
I know Jay and I talked way more than we should, and we cut off Andrew a lot, but that was fantastic. You were singing to the heavens right there, bud.
I try a little bit,
So I'm going to move on to our last two picks here. So Azeez Ojulari, the edge out of Georgia, goes to the Kansas City Chiefs, who, when we drafted, Jay really wanted a tackle to be taken there. Gets us a B+ grade, though. Still a nice pick. And then Zaven Collins, the linebacker out of Tulsa. I think this is where Jay gave his 4-3 versus 3-4 breakdown on defense and kind of enlightened us a little bit on what Zaven Collins can bring to the team as opposed to what they already have and what they can just improve upon on their team. The last two picks here, obviously these are Super Bowl winning teams of the last 2 years and the teams that made it last year as well. So, you just build depth now as having an elite team. Both these picks will probably would greatly benefit both teams. Jay, you liked Tevin Jenkins here, right? But
I just because of the tackle need for the Chiefs,
or even possibly I don't know, Eichenberg would probably be a stretch, but there was a couple of guys in this kind of zone, and then you picked Zaven Collins for Tampa Bay, which you made a great point about. You can catch that on the first video. Andrew, do you still stand behind your edge rush pick here?
Yeah, I just think if I stand by it only with the implication that Azeez Ojulari is here on draft day because he's just that good. He's a first round talent, but I don't imagine he's going to be here. But again, the way our draft went, I think, he is here. So I think they take him. Tevin Jenkins would be nice here. I mocked Samuel Cosme going here.
Samuel Cosme, right?
Yeah, who are both really good tackles and are both 3-year starters at one for Oklahoma State, one for Texas, and they both played very, very well, graded out really well, have good pro days. Again, I just don't think passing up on a first round guy who's projected to go mid first round in a lot of mock drafts would be beneficial for the Chiefs. They'd be able to line him up opposite Frank Clark. They lost their other guy, Tano Passanio, to free agency. So why not go take one of the best edge rushers in the draft and then figure out the offensive line, which you kind of already did. You got Kyle Long. If he pans out, you don't know where he's going to, you're not sure where he's going to play, but he could possibly play left tackle. You filled a couple holes. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif is coming back. You signed Austin Blythe, the center from the Rams last year, who had a really good year and has had several good years before that. And I don't want to go off too long here, but then they also brought back a guy like Mike Remmers, who unfortunately played a little out of position in the Super Bowl and was exploited by Jason Pierre-Paul. I'm being nicely saying exploited. He was absolutely dominated at left tackle, but Mike Remmers is a right tackle. So if you get right tackle, Mike Remmers play right tackle, and then maybe Kyle Long somewhere on the offensive line, I think you should be okay. And you can get some developmental guys to bring behind and learn from. But that is contingent on Azeez Ojulari being here at this spot.
We'll let Jay take us home here real quick. I just wanted to point out, I just kind of scrolled back through. Azeez might drop here. Now, don't get me wrong, he might not drop here specifically, but I think you're going to have a prime edge pick here for what it looks like. Unless, we did a few trades in this draft. I think we did 3 different ones. So for what it's worth, I think 3 trades is probably the cap what we'll see, but you never know. A lot of teams are wondering who's going to go at the front half of the draft. It's kind of a wild card here at the end of the draft because depending on if teams really are wild about one player, they might want to trade up or and Jay kind of had mentioned like in our last mock draft, trades don't happen all the time. But if you're really sold on a guy, you take him. If they the Chiefs are really sold here on Azeez, or if they're really sold on a tackle. But yeah, Jay, take us home. What are you thinking here, bud?
Yeah, so Andrew already mentioned about the Chiefs' offensive line. I think getting Jenkins he starts at left tackle for you. Remmers goes to right tackle. Long is going to play guard, more than likely being out of the league for a little bit. But the Azeez pick makes a lot of sense. We do need some help on the defensive front there. Zaven Collins getting a C is ridiculous. Check the first one. Check the first episode where I break down 4-3 versus 3-4 defensive ends and outside linebackers. Dude plays a traditional 3-4 outside linebacker. I think I said this stat 3 times already. Only player in college football, 4 picks, 4 sacks. Dude does it all as a 3-4 outside linebacker. You got JPP who's getting old. You got Shaq Barrett. He's already 30. Get a new guy in there. He's the best fit at the position. It's unbelievable that this gets a C right now. I know they got the new algorithm that they do, and because it didn't fit the ADP, it doesn't come out better. It's not a C, okay? It's a gosh darn pick right here for Zaven Collins to go 32 to the Tampa Bay Bucks. He'll be able to learn for a little bit, sit behind him, learn the defense. They got a great defensive coordinator over there. They already had a good defensive line. I hate that they're going to get this guy, but it's a great fit at a primo position, at a position that they could use a new body in, especially going into next year, and a guy that fits the scheme. I don't understand. It's literally, it falls into their lap in terms of what this guy can do and how it affects the game for them on that side of the football. So David Collins, it's an A for me. I'll do PFF. I'll change it. I'll Photoshop an A into there. I don't care.
We're on it, folks. So that was a fun draft. We're planning to do one more before the actual draft in 16 days, or when you see this, probably 12 days. With that being said, join us for part 3 and watch part 1 if you really want a player breakdown. We went over every player's position that was drafted, and we gave, and not even drafted, we went over a couple guys that weren't even drafted. We gave fantastic points of view from all 3 of us. So it was a nice show that we put together. This show we had a little bit more fun with, kind of being general managers. For the last show, I think I'm going to put us on the clock or something. Make you guys
super
pick,
serious.
Yeah, we're going to be super on it. Maybe a combination of both drafts. But thanks for tuning in, guys. The AJ Sports Show appreciates all the likes and subscribes you can give us. Until we meet again. So long, everyone.